Leslie Irving, interim clerk.
I'm County Commissioner Denise Driehaus. Good afternoon.
Jeff Aludo, County Administrator.
Michael Freeman, legal counsel of the board.
Thank you so much, and I'm Stephanie Summerall Dumas, President of the Board. We will move forward. We have a few items on, but some really interesting items. We'll move forward to our Health Commissioner, Greg Kesterman, COVID-19 Comprehensive Report.
Good
Welcome.
afternoon, Commissioners. Thank you for having me today. We'll continue the trend from last week, which was optimistically much better than we've been for the last month. So
Great.
nothing is amazing, but we're continuing to trend in that right direction. So today in Hamilton County, we have about 8,300 active cases of COVID compared to last week, 8,900. So 600 less active cases of COVID within our community. Our cases, our trend per day continues to go down slowly as well. You may recall I mentioned September 16th was our most recent peak. We were at 419 cases per day. Last week we were at 315 cases per day. Today we were at 299 cases. So also trending slowly, but in the right direction. Percent positivity, we are at 9.5%, also continuing to decline, and our reproductive value is at 0.93 today, which is below 1 and has remained that way now for about 3 weeks. Hospitalizations, we are at 527 today with 154 individuals within the ICU and 107 on ventilators. I once again included this 30-day trend line, and we have adjusted the ICUs. They are now on a slightly downward trajectory. Very slow, but certainly in the right direction. And you may recall one of our major concerns is that this line wasn't stopping. It was just going up with no end in sight. So certainly we're heading in the right direction, although slow. Same thing with our hospitalizations. We are heading in the right direction, just at a slow pace. As far as who's ending up in the hospital, once again, no change. We continue to see the majority of cases for those between the ages of 50 and 79. And when you look at the CDC transmission map, today we are at 272 cases per 100,000 here in Hamilton County, with a county percent positivity of 9.75, so just slightly higher than the 14-county region. As far as vaccinations, we continue to make a lot of progress. It's slow, but we continue to see every age group getting vaccinated. For those over the age of 12, we are at 69%, so we really did not see a change from where we were at last week. Our total population, we are at 57%, so continuing to inch up just slowly. And once again, you can see that we have met the national goal for everyone over the age of 65. We've actually met the regional goal, which is 80% vaccination. For those over the age of 50, we met the national goal, which is 70% vaccination, and then we continue to work on those other age groups. We hear that at the end of the month, the FDA is going to meet and discuss the Pfizer vaccine for the 5 to 11-year-olds. We stand ready. As soon as we're able to start vaccinating that age group, we'll start that work, and we're excited to have another age group included. And then my last slide is just a reminder that there is a lot of opportunity and places to get vaccinated in Hamilton County, and we encourage folks to take advantage of those. Happy to take any questions.
Thank you so much, Commissioner. And of those places that are available for vaccinations, do all of them have boosters or just only certain ones?
You should double check before you go on testandprotectcincy.com, but every location I've personally called has booster shots.
Okay. All right, thank you. I'll open it up for any questions or comments. Vice President Reese.
Thank you, Commissioner Kesterman. And the boosters people are looking for them. One of the reasons I'm a little late coming from North College Hill Middle School. Can you talk about some of the schools now that are reaching out? I know we were at Norwood with the superintendent, Mary Ronan, and then I was with the superintendent. He actually got his booster, assistant superintendent of North College Hill Schools today. Could you maybe talk a little bit about that, the schools?
Yes, so here in Hamilton County, we have 4 mobile units, 3 of them operated by Public Health and 1 in which we're providing staffing for, the 513 relief bus. And these units are able to go anywhere. And so many schools have requested us come, and we are providing vaccination right there at the school. There are a lot of schools that early on got Moderna vaccines, so we're trying to encourage those schools to wait a little bit longer until Moderna is recommended for the booster. But we are out there doing booster shots, and every shot counts, and we're excited about it.
And could you also talk about the, I know you talked about the hospitalizations, and I'm getting a lot of calls. We have other reasons that people are in the hospital besides COVID. I've been hearing a lot of people getting the flu, or maybe it's associated with COVID of the flu. Can you talk about that? I also heard that people are driving in from other states because there are, the hospitals are full, trying to just find help somewhere. And maybe how is that affecting our hospitalizations?
Sure. So when you look at our hospitals, and you hear folks from the hospitals present, there's just not a lot of room right now in our hospital systems because they are so full of COVID patients, which impacts the level of care they can provide other types of illnesses. And so what they do is they work really hard to try and get folks in and out and back to home where they can self-care for themselves. People do shop around for hospitals, which is unfortunate, but it's a reality. And as we get closer to flu season, which officially started on October 1st, we anticipate seeing flu. And so that will put additional stress within our hospital system. So we'll have to watch this fall closely and hopefully be able to manage all of the disease in the county.
Okay. Thank you.
Yep.
Thank you, Commissioner Dreehouse.
Thank you. Just one quick question related to boosters. So the Pfizer booster is available. Any idea related to the time frame for Moderna?
Everything I hear sounds like in a few weeks, but there's been no great date given by the FDA.
Okay. And I would just want to reiterate also that you would not recommend that someone who got a Pfizer go for the other booster, nor the Moderna go for the Pfizer booster.
Anyone with questions, I always recommend if they have a primary care physician or a physician that they can talk to, they go to them directly. The CDC does not recommend it, and therefore my agency will not do so. I have heard of instances where a doctor might break from the CDC recommendation, but generally that is not the norm.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you.
Absolutely.
Once again, thank you so much for all your work and your team, so.
Thank you.
Yes,
I can also just say, I know all of us have said this before, but I just want to say it again. I want to thank you and your staff. I want to thank all the nurses that we had some hot days and long lines, and they've just been so good to answer questions. We have people show up with, like you said, Moderna, not knowing that, you know, Pfizer is the only one that has the booster, but they've just been so helpful to people and being able to answer questions, making people feel a lot more comfortable. I know those numbers are moving slowly. However, these are people that have a lot of questions, the harder to get people to convince them to do it, but your nursing staff has just been great to answer all questions and not rush people, and it's just been great, so I just wanted to tell you that.
Thank you for that. We have 22 nurses that we've brought on just for vaccinating in COVID, and they've been wonderful, so I'll make sure to share that with them. Thank you.
Thank you so much. So we'll move forward with our next item on the agenda. It's a resolution to reappoint Bruce Branscombe to the Board of Building Appeals. And Eric, Mr. Beck, did you want to speak about Bruce at all? I see. Okay. Okay. And as it says, he's being reappointed to the Board of Appeals. And I just wanted to ask Mike, our legal person, I noticed that the agenda says reappointing and then the resolution just says appointing. Is that okay, or do we need to make an amendment?
Vote on what the resolution formally says, and we
Okay.
can make a correction to that.
Okay.
It in fact is an appointment and not a reappointment.
Okay.
So Leslie will make a correction to the record as it is noticed, but
Okay.
read the resolution.
Sure.
When you're voting.
Okay, thank you so much. And so it's a resolution appointing one member to the Hamilton County Board of Building Appeals. And as I was saying, he's been on the appeals before, a great candidate. I know he's been waiting for reappointment. Are there any comments as it relates to the resolution? Hearing none, I make a motion to adopt the resolution appointing one member to the Hamilton County Board of Building Appeals.
Second.
Commissioner Summer Dumas?
Yes.
Commissioner Reese?
Yes.
Commissioner Dreehouse?
Yes?
Thank you so much. So we'll move forward to our item HCDC, presentation of findings from, let me put on my glasses, findings from Tax Incentive Review Council. Thank you and welcome again.
Thank you, Madam President and Commissioners. I'm Harry Blanton from HCDC. As you stated, we're here for the Tax Incentive Review Council's report and recommendations. With me today are Clint McIntosh, who is our staff member who oversees the TIRC for us. And also with us is Greg Jarvis, who is the chairman of the TIRC, and he is the county auditor's appointee. And I believe Greg would like to say a few words. Did you want to say a few words, Greg?
Come up, yeah. Thank you.
I represent the auditor. I'm almost the finance director for the auditor, and has been the liaison for many years to the HCDC. I just want to commend the work that Harry and Clinton and the staff there do. There are many, many successful development projects, as you know, in Hamilton County. A lot of them don't get a lot of publicity, a lot of notice, but they've been very successful in the enterprise zone, the CRA agreements, and that's what we review every year. But it's really a pleasure working with them. They're professionals to the core, and the work they do has really benefited Hamilton County. So I just want to thank you all for let you know that. Yeah, I'm sure you do, but they should be recognized for the work they do.
Well, thank you. Thank you for your comments. Yeah. I think my chief of staff was on that committee at one time. Were you not, sir? Okay.
Okay. Thank you, Chairman Jarvis, and
Yeah.
thank you, Commissioner Dumas. I'll jump into the presentation if that's okay.
Sure.
And be happy to answer any questions. So the purpose of the Tax Incentive Review Council is to review the outstanding tax incentive agreements to make sure that the companies are in compliance with the terms. And we provide recommendations to the county commissioners regarding these agreements. The section of the Ohio Revised Code is up there. It's 5709.85, and that's what establishes the Tax Incentive Review Council. Can you not hear me?
That's right. We can't hear you.
Sorry. I'll just take off my mask. So let me start over.
I heard you well.
Okay.
Oh, the interpreters. Okay.
Thank you.
Okay.
Thank you very much.
That makes a
I want to make sure people can hear.
Yeah.
So the purpose of the Tax Incentive Review Council is to meet annually to review the agreements, to make sure that companies are in compliance with these agreements, and to make recommendations to you, the county commissioners, so you can make informed decisions about whether to continue these tax incentives. There's a section in the Ohio Revised Code, 5709.85, that establishes the TIRC, and it designates who is on the Tax Incentive Review Council. As you all know, you appoint 3 different appointees every year for the county commissioners. There's also the county auditor's designee, and then each community that is impacted, so if it's in Evendale, Evendale would appoint 2 members, and then the school district that is the company is located in is also a part of the Tax Incentive Review Council, and they have 1 member. So looking at the program overall for the Enterprise Zone program, and I should back up and say that we review 2 primary programs. The Tax Incentive Review Council reviews the Enterprise Zone agreements and the CRA agreements, or Community Reinvestment Area agreements, for Hamilton County. So for the Enterprise Zone, there are currently 19 active agreements. And you can see in here the goals that were projected or committed to, and then the ones that were achieved. So for both real property and personal property and employment, I should say all 3, all of them have been exceeded by the companies that were participating in the program, and some are very, very largely exceeded, if you can see up to 196% more. For the community reinvestment area, there are 10 active agreements, and for those agreements as well, the projected or committed to goals were exceeded in every case for the real property, personal property, and employment. We reviewed, in addition to the ones that we just discussed, we reviewed 3 agreements that expired in 2020. So those companies have met their commitments and their agreements have expired. And then there were 3 more that were currently in construction periods. So they do not have to meet their commitments until their construction period is expired. And also I should point out that those 3 that expired, about $55,000 went back into the tax rolls for Hamilton County when those expired. So. So this is a list of the companies and the communities that they're located in and the recommendations from the TIRC. So for all of these, except for the bottom one, the recommendation was continue. I should point out, as you all know, that during COVID-19, some of our companies were impacted by that. So there was, the TRC has a discretion to look at each case individually and determine if the company was a little short on their goals, what were the circumstances. And obviously COVID impacted a lot of companies in the past year, so some of these might have been a little bit short on their goals, but the TRC continued all of them. One is rescinded, that's Emeritus in Forest Park. And the reason for that is that Emeritus relocated across the street. They own 2 buildings, and they renovated one, moved across the street. And so since they located out of the building where they had a tax exemption, they asked us to rescind it. So they, that would have happened whether they requested it or not, but they were nice enough to let us know that that was going on. For the CRA, all of them were continued except for the 3 at the bottom that expired. And these are the communities that they were in and the companies that were continued. And I'm happy to answer any questions. Obviously, in your packets, Commissioners, you have a lot more details about each agreement. So, but we're happy to entertain your questions.
I'll open it up for Vice President Reese. Did you have any questions or comments as it relates to the presentation? Okay, your mic is not on. Commissioner Dreehouse?
Thank you. Yeah, Harry, I just wanted to thank you and the group for doing this review. As you say, we have a few members that we have appointed to the Tax Incentive Review Committee, so Tom Mueller, Peg Conway, and Barbara Murray Graves. So I know it's only a once-a-year commitment, but it's still really important that we keep track of these economic development incentives to make sure that the companies are doing their part and that we in turn are doing our part by conducting this review. So I thank you for that. So I don't know if I missed it. Was there a total number of jobs that it's here, isn't it? The created and retained piece. Could you reiterate that?
I can go back. So for the enterprise zone, the total jobs projected were 3,115. And the jobs that were achieved were 3,612. And then for the CRA, that was 1,629 jobs committed to, and then 2,332 actually achieved.
So those are really great percentages, and we're well over in both categories. And as I look through, well over in all of the categories. What do you attribute that to?
Well, some of these agreements were committed to maybe 7 or 8 or 9 years ago, and companies continue to grow, and so they just, these are good companies that are continuing to invest and grow and create new jobs. So, I would probably say that companies, when they initially agree to these, they want to be a little bit conservative because they don't want to overcommit. But the good thing is that they do continue to create more jobs than they even committed to. So, just more jobs for the community.
Yeah, that's great. Could you also just remind me, what is the average term of one of these agreements?
I don't know, but they're anywhere probably from 5 to 10 years for the enterprise zone. CRA sometimes are a little longer, but I would guess maybe 8 years would probably be an average term.
Okay.
But I really haven't been able to do that analysis, to be honest.
Okay, great. Thank you. Really helpful information.
Sure.
Thank you. So will HCDC be reaching out to them and just really thanking them for their efforts? And I'm sure you will.
Yes, we actually send a letter to each company after your approval of this and make them aware what the recommendation was. And generally, they are thanking the company for their investments and their jobs, yes.
That's great. Thank you.
Madam President.
Yes.
Can I go to, in your packet, Exhibit C,
Sure,
revenue sharing status?
right?
Can you maybe walk us through there? There's some areas where it says revenue sharing required. All of them are yes. That is the revenue sharing as it relates to the school districts. We've got everything from Princeton to Southwest local school district to Lockland, Forest Hills School District, and Sycamore School District. But then there are some areas where it says, for example, Woodlawn project, it says revenue sharing required. You said no, and then you have an explanation.
Right.
In Newtown, you have revenue sharing is a yes with the Forest Hills School District, but then it says, has it occurred? And you said no. Evendale, same way, company revenue sharing agreed, yes. Has it occurred? No. And as well as St. Bernard and Evendale, 2 yeses for revenue sharing that's required for St. Bernard and Elmwood Place School District and Princeton School District. It says yes, and then you have no. Now, some of these are the company has not received the abatement, but then you have some that they have received the abatement, and there's a reason. Can you just maybe clarify what that means, what that is? Walk us through that.
Sure. So let me explain revenue sharing first so the audience understands. So in each agreement, the law states that if a more than $1 million in payroll is created, a company creates that payroll, the community will share some of that income tax with the school district, so it's called revenue sharing. And so that will kick in when the abatement kicks in. So once the company takes advantage of the tax incentive, then the revenue sharing will commence. So in each individual situation, you have to look at each one individually for different reasons. So as you stated, some of them are not receiving the abatement, so those have not kicked in. So let me go down to the ones that say no. So in one case in Woodlawn, it says that it's actually not required because they have a separate agreement. As long as the school district stays below a certain amount of tax abatement, they don't have to do revenue sharing with Woodlawn, and that's an agreement between Woodlawn and the school district. So that's one reason. Let's see. So let's see, in the hydro systems in Forest Hills, in Newtown, it says the school district has not yet received the payment this year. The company has a compensation agreement with the Forest Hills Local School District, relieving the village of Newtown from any and all obligations to engage in any revenue sharing. So it's probably similar to Woodlawn, where they've agreed if they keep a certain amount of abatement or below a certain amount, then they don't have to do revenue sharing. So that's probably the reason for that. And then the rest of them, I think, are all occurring besides the ones where the company has not received the abatement.
Okay. And then you have one in Sims Township for Sycamore Community Schools. You said that they're not required to do it, but they are doing it. Why are they not required?
So this is in a township, so there's no income tax.
Gotcha.
So the company just decided to do what they call a pilot, a payment in lieu of taxes, I believe, with the school district, just to reimburse them for the taxes that they would have forgone.
Thank you. Thank you for
Sure.
the explanations.
Thank you, Harry. Great report, and I'm glad that they're doing what they need to do, and I appreciate the additional information that you gave on each company that I can read a little later.
Thank
So,
you, Madam President. Thank you,
thank you.
Commissioners.
Uh-huh.
Appreciate it.
Thank you. That's all we have on our agenda, but at this point, I'd like to open it up for any comments that my colleagues may have. Vice President Reese,
No additional comments today.
thank you. Commissioner Dreehouse?
Just one thing, Madam President, I don't know if we're all aware, but it is Jeff Aludo's birthday today. So, happy birthday to the county administrator, Jeff Aludo.
Yes.
He's over 50 now, so I don't want to disclose anything further, but anyway,
That's enough.
looking good, Jeff, looking good.
That's
Thank
great
you.
news. Yes, yes. With that
Thank you,
being
Commissioners.
said, Jeff, do you have any final words?
Just a couple. So number one, on this last item, this will be on your agenda next Thursday, so
Okay.
approval of the TRRC report. But since you did say it was my birthday, I guess there's no better way to celebrate a birthday than saving the county a lot of money, right?
Okay.
So we did have, and I'm glad Mr. Bergen has joined us this afternoon, so that we did complete our bond sale for the refunding of our sales tax bonds this morning. These were the bonds that Moody's had upgraded from to a AA3, which obviously improves the interest rate environment for us. The refunding results, I believe, John, will save us on a net present value basis somewhere around $15.9 million over the life of the debt service. We were approximately 10 times oversubscribed for this, meaning we had more investors wanting to buy the bonds significantly more investors wanting to buy these bonds than were available, obviously, which makes it the pricing very advantageous for us. So that was fantastic. It was a great result. We had 28 investors buy the bonds. Notably, we also had 5 new investors. And every time we do a bond issuance or a refunding, we ask our underwriter to take a look at targeting investors who have not purchased our bonds in the past. So the fact that out of 28 investors, we had 5 investors who have never purchased sales tax bonds before buy these bonds is a great thing, not only now for our pricing now, but for our pricing in the future. And this was the issuance as well, Commissioners, that was led for the first time by Loop Capital, which is the largest minority U.S.-owned U.S. securities firm in the nation. We also had several other underwriters, Fifth Third, Piper Jaffray, and Siebert Williams, which is also a minority-owned financial securities firm as well. So all in all, great result, in particular because last week the financial markets for, especially in the municipal bond market, were really going haywire. And we were looking at a pretty unsettled environment. So I thank John for settling that environment down significantly, and our financial advisor, PFM, as well. So John, anything you'd like to add on the sale?
The only thing I was going to add is to put the savings in context. Typically, when we go to refund bonds, we're looking for about at least 5% savings. That's sort of our trigger. This was almost 27.
Oh,
Say
my
26.6 on these bonds. So this is a
Wow.
big savings.
This is a big deal.
Yeah,
You'll remember your birthday from now on, won't you?
And I want to thank John as well because, as the board knows, we, if you go back 10 years or so ago, we had a position in the county that was the formal debt manager who did nothing but monitor our bond issuances, oversee new issuances and refundings, and that person did a great job at that. When she left years ago, John essentially assumed those duties. So in addition to his other duties overseeing departments, overseeing the budget office, John also serves as our debt manager and just does a fantastic job with it. So I want to thank John and his team for that as well.
Thank you so much, John, and your team. Because I remember reading last week about how things were going haywire, and so I'm so glad we worked that out. Commissioner Dreehouse?
Yeah, can I just ask for just a little bit of an explanation as to why we had such favorable activity related to these bonds? Other than the obvious that it's Jeff's birthday and you did it, John, other than that, yeah.
Well, I mean, a lot of this really is when we issue at 5% coupons. So they're very refundable when we come up to that refunding point, and the market is particularly low now. So we could have completely screwed this up and we would have seen good savings. But we had a very good team working on it. A few other things with this one in particular is because of where these bonds are on as a timeline. They've only got 11 years on them. And that 1 through 11 year period is particularly attractive right now. Folks are a little more concerned when you start going out beyond 10, 11, 15 years about where interest rates should be. And so you pay more. Because there's only 11 years left on these, that helped. We also seem to be in the sweet spot for our rating. Because we're at a good rating, but not so excellent that there's not room for investors to make money when they buy our bonds.
Wow.
If you're AAA, there's a little bit less of a window for what the investors can make when they're buying them. So all of those things came together into a very good market.
Great.
That's great, yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you so much. Appreciate it. With nothing further to come before the commission, I'd like to make a motion to adjourn.
Second.
Commissioner Summer Dumas?
Yes,
Commissioner Reese?
Yes.
Commissioner Dreehouse?
Yes?
thank you.